Okay, so now I wish I had a picture of this, but current state, Mr. Gonzalez is in a Ziploc bag with all oxygen removed
Oh.
and his clothes removed. All right, so that's our starting point.
We had to burn.
Now we roll back 48 hours. Now, some of you, I was in Fort Lauderdale over the long weekend, visiting my. I have one living grandparent. Now, some of you have previously heard the tale of my wife having a phobia of lizards, and we had a condo down in Florida several years ago that we would stay in for a prolonged period of time over the cold months. And we had a nice pack of lizards living with us there that didn't make her very happy. So now it's a full-blown phobia, let's say. Well, so the idea is when we're in Florida, we only stay in, it's got to be at least the third floor because the lizards tend not to go up that high. My grandma's place is on the fourth floor. Not a problem. Until it was a problem. So we're getting ready to go out to dinner on, I guess this was Saturday night. And as we're walking towards the door, a lizard is running in. Little tiny one, but bad, right? So this thing goes under the couch and stuff like that. So we dismantle my grandma's living room. We get to the lizard and I gotta kill it. Dead lizard. We use this trick. You gotta throw ice water down because they're fast. Those little lizards are fast, but they're cold-blooded. So if you get them cold, extra cold, they stop moving. They're like their immune system's in shock. So I basically just threw ice water all over the floor around it because it's like a ceramic floor or something. And then you chase him around a little bit till he's nice and soaked in there, and then he stops moving, and then you step on him and you hear the skull crunch. Okay, that's the part my wife needed to hear is the skull crunch. Okay, so lizard's dead. If only it had ended there. Because so far this does not explain why Mr. Gonzalez is in an oxygen-free environment. Naked. So I go out to dinner. We come back. And this is where things get a little sketch. Because it's unclear what caused this. But while she was getting ready for bed, I pulled out the beds in the room where we were sleeping in just to make sure there was no other lizards, to assure her. And that's where we feel we may have disturbed the nesting bed bugs. It's also possible we brought them home from the restaurant. That seems unlikely. So in any case, I pull the bed out. No lizards. Push it back in. My wife comes and sits down on the bed, and I'm walking. I'm talking to my grandma. I come back into the room, and there are bed bugs crawling all over my wife. And you grab them, and you smush them, and blood pops. Because bed bugs are basically vampires. They feed on people. So they go and they suck your blood and then they go and hide again until they have to feed again. And this guy seemed pretty full. So I'm guessing he just finished feeding on the only thing that was around, which was my wife. Now, when we travel a lot, and so when we're in hotel rooms, well, when we book hotel rooms, my wife is very thorough, looking at reviews to make sure there's no recent reports of bed bugs and things like this. So while she has a phobia of lizards, I don't even know what you would call it with bed bugs, but something greater, right? So both of these things happening in a 2-hour span seems to be problematic, to say the least. So we leave my grandma's, leave her there in the bed bug infested house, and we go and get a hotel. And so basically, any belongings that came with us are dead to us. Freezer. Well, the freezer thing would work over time. They're most susceptible to heat. So one thing I did to make sure, because just in case they came home from us from dinner, that means they may have been in the car, our rental car. So I parked the rental car on top of the parking structure exposed to the sky at the hotel, so it would just bake in the Fort Lauderdale sun. Because around 120 degrees or so is where you get to that lethal temperature for them. Mm-hmm. So we figure, okay, they're probably dead in the car. But now what about our stuff? So at least it was only a weekend, a long weekend. So any clothes that we brought with us, we're going to pitch, and the suitcases are going to be gone. And basically anything that is just irreplaceable, we're going to throw away. That's currently in garbage bags in our garage. Now, when you travel, you tend to pack your favorite clothes, right? and I know I seem petite, but in real life, I'm quite large, and it's hard to shop. I can't just waltz into Kohl's, and buy anything. Okay? I might be able to get socks that would technically go on at Kohl's. Now we're done. And a hat, maybe a hat. Could do gloves, yeah. But generally, I do my shopping at specialty tent and awning stores. Yeah, where they, I have a good canvas guy. He's in the bag. So, yeah. So a couple of the shirts my wife's happy about, because I tend to just wear clothes into the ground until it almost falls off you. But a couple of those shirts I like, but now those are gone. So we're going to. So speaking of which, Mr. Gonzalez is going to go through the on our washing machine, the sanitary cycle that does it, I guess, in boiling water, and then we're going to put them in the high heat dryer for a day. And then we might put him back in a Ziploc bag, and he might live in the freezer for a couple of weeks. And at that point, maybe my wife will have confidence to let him back in the house. But his Hawaiian shirt is toast. No. That's gone. The Hawaiian shirt's gone. Yeah, so I don't know when the next time I'm going to travel is. We're going to Vegas over Thanksgiving, but that's out. We canceled that guy.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, Vegas is like the bed bug capital of the world. If you look at the reviews, just every hotel, there's a risk.
Really?
Yeah. Now, it wasn't so much of a risk that she was not okay with it before.
Mm-hmm. But now.
Yeah. Now, risks become certainties. They become certainties.
75% chance I'm not taking it.
Yeah. 1% chance. It's gone. So yeah, we're pitching like deodorant. I think there's 0 cases of bed bugs living in deodorant. But there's always a first.
What about your toothpaste?
God, what is this? Is it fruit? It's Cheerios. Or Cocoa Puffs. What is that, Cocoa Puffs? The worst part about it is this is blocking the drink hole. Is it Cocoa Puffs?
Make you extra breakfast.
So I'm guessing that's what we're laughing about. So evidence would say that it's not nothing.
You didn't say it was nothing. You said it was nothing.
Yeah, he said it was nothing.
No, I just want to know until you figure it out. When do you figure it out? So.
It was kind of fast.
Yeah.
So it's probably done could have done much better.
It was a poor. Okay, so you took Diet Mountain Dew and you threw, what is it? We got like
Cereal.
6, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see six Cocoa Puffs.
Did you at least use a meal swipe?
Yeah, technically.
You took food from the
Tec-
cab.
Technically, my
Ooh.
bottomless cup includes soda and coffee and things like that. It does not include Cocoa Puffs. I'm gonna have to mention this to Gretchen. See what the official policy on this type of thing is, because I mean, we do have Christian ethics here that we need to discuss, and
Can you get milk in there?
I think so. I can get any drink.
Okay. So maybe you could have like a cereal drink.
I could have a cereal ready drink. I can't have the cereal drink. V, stealing from Sodexo.
No, it was dropped on the plate, so it's already out.
So this is, is it on the floor or just on the... So now we're talking about the source of my Cocoa Pops. So you just collected them from random areas around the
It's
cereal.
on the plate, so I'm like, okay, sweet.
I see.
I try not to waste food.
Clearly. Actually, Diet Mountain, the Cocoa Puff flavored Diet Mountain Dew isn't all that bad. Just has a little chocolate hint.
Ooh, is that good?
That's not bad. I mean, I'm definitely allergic to chocolate.
Okay, so you need more.
Yeah. Put more of them in next time. Probably.
Are you actually?
All right. Yeah, so that was my weekend.
Bed bug.
Yeah, so right after class, I'm going to grab some lunch and fill up because the rest of the day I'm at home burning stuff.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I only got like 2 trips out of that suitcase, too. It's rough.
Benjamin, can you just not like throw it to the trash can or something?
Oh, you want a free suitcase?
No.
I mean, we've already gone through it and seen 0 bed bugs. Huh? You just don't. I mean, realistically, there's not in there from what it is,
No,
but
wait.
you just never know.
Are you sure that your phones don't have bed bugs in them?
We're not sure. We are not sure, but you know, at some point you draw the line in the sand.
Okay, I'm pretty sure bed bugs don't live in silicon, so probably.
But I tell you what, it was it took quite convincing for my wife to let me bring my CPAP machine in last night. The bag's getting destroyed. It's a good bag too. Really custom made, fits on your carry-on, you know, because it has like a little slot in the back of it, so it slides down over the handle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just really nice. Just nice stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so if anyone wants some good luggage, like I'm 99.9% sure it's completely bed bug free. Or if anybody wants some 5X tall shirts, it's great for couples. Snuggle up and watch a movie. Well, it's true. I mean, you plus your girlfriend weighs way less than me.
Well, yeah, but it's just a weird thought of
You're sitting there watching Netflix, like, what is this? Oh, wearing Littman's old shirt. You got to say that out loud in like this really creepy way. I mean, you probably even fit a third person in there, like a dog. The Ann Arbor people are like, what is going on there? See, this is what happens when people they share their traumatic stories. Okay. So let's. Are we going on with more stuff, or are we going over the exam? What did I say?
Exam.
Okay. So let's look at that. I'm going to. Here, let's just copy this. Go back into here. All right, so we have this list, and we're supposed to write the necessary code to extract the 6. All right, so this is going to be a series of cars and cooters. All right. Was that not going to give me? well, whatever, this will work. All right, so the cooter of this list is going to give me that list, right? The cooter of that is going to give me that list. Now, I can't take the cooter of that, right? I need the car of that, which will give me this actual list, which then I can take the cooter of to give me this. So I need to start off with the car of the cooter of this thing. So we're just going to call this guy X for right now. All right. So car of the cooter will give me that as a list. Now, if I take the cooter of that, I get that. If I take the cooter of that, I get that. If I take the car of that, I get that list. So we're going to have the car of the cooter of the car of the cooter, which is going to give me this list right here. Then I take the cooter of that, which is going to give me the list containing that. I take the car of that, which will give me the list. And I take the car of that, which will give me the 6. So that's the car of the cooter of that guy.
It works. I just
So if we take this guy here, actually, let me just do this first. We'll go into and then I'm going to replace there's my 6. All right. Questions on that one? So, not hard, but a little tedious, right? Made you understand how cars and cooters worked and how a list containing a list. You're going to have issues getting a cooter off of that. Well, you actually end up with an empty list, but then taking cars or cooters off that will be problematic. So your next step is scary. Okay, so questions about that one. And you can make it look scarier by exploding out the cars and the cooters instead of the shortcut things, which is fine. A couple people did that, which was substantially harder to grade, but technically really more correct because the syntactic sugar isn't necessarily guaranteed to exist, although I've never seen a scheme or a Lisp implementation that doesn't have them.
Now, is there an implementation which expands the sugar such that you can do as many cars and cooters in one expression as you want?
I don't know if that's true in any technology thing. As many as you want is going to always bump up against the size of something. Size of int, size of long, size of
But
made
more
up,
than
whatever.
just like 5 or whatever that bracket has.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think at some point, beyond maybe this, maybe four or 5, it maybe starts becoming difficult for a human being to kind of keep track. I'm kind of thinking it's time to like kind of reset and give yourself a new starting point and then start ripping that apart. Because I mean, if you have like 35, A's and D's strewn about in this thing, I think it starts becoming, a little bit sketch, right? Okay. So that was the first one. Second one, that font is too small for me, so we're just going to put it into here. Can I? There, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Oh, just in case this is sometime here, let me just show you what would happen. If I have this and I just do a normal paste, see how I paste it like that? But if I do a special paste, it pastes it like this.
Oh, is that with shift?
It's for a Mac, it's Option Shift Command V. So you're doing your paste and match style is what you're actually doing. So I think it's
Unique option?
paste and Mac style.
Okay.
So that's Option key. At least it is in, and I think it's throughout because I use it all the time. So Option key Shift Command V will paste and match style for whatever. There's a Windows equivalent. I just don't use Windows very often, so I'm certain that this isn't some sort of special Mac magic or something. But it's handy in situations where like you're copying something out of, you know, maybe it's even something you're working on a term paper or something like that, and you're quoting something. So always make sure you cite your sources, right? But you're copying it, but maybe the font or something like that is weird on whatever website you're bringing it off of. You could paste it in and match style, so it'll match whatever your document has. So if that's something you don't currently do, it's handy for situations like this. All right, so write a function named list of divisors that takes a number as a parameter, returns a list containing all of the numbers that evenly divide that number. So if it was a 9, you'd go through all the numbers between 1 and 9, or you can count down and then reverse it, whatever you wanted to do. I'll probably actually do that. So taking a 9, and 9 evenly divides itself, something like that. But let's start. Then I tell you about the mod function. Is it mod or modulo? Doesn't really matter. I told you what you can use. Okay, so for 9, 1 evenly divides 9, 3 evenly divides 9, and 9 evenly divides itself. So those are the list of numbers you should return for 9. So I'll go ahead and just write it in here. So I'll define, what did I call it? List of divisors. And that's a lambda that's going to take in a number. And it's going to return, well, we're probably going to actually use a helper for this. We'll see. So this guy's going to be building up a list, right? So once we have, so I'm actually going to create a second thing. So define list of divisors helper. We could have done it as like a let rec or a couple different ways, but this is probably the most straightforward way to do it, like in an exam situation. And this guy is going to be a lambda that's going to take in a kernum and an n, and we're going to kind of count up to this guy. So what this guy is going to do is he's going to boil down to list of divisors helper, passing it a 1 and an n. We'll start off with a 1, go all the way up to an n. All right. Now, we know if kernum is equal to n, we know that a number evenly divides itself, correct? So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just boil down to, so we like cons, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll do a cond, and we're going to say if equals kernum, and if those guys are equal to each other, we're just going to return the list of n. That's what we'll boil down to. Otherwise, we're going to ask a question. Oh, this is kind of unfortunate. We got to ask a question inside of a, no, we don't. So we're going to say mod n kernum, and we're going to check to see if that is equal to 0. So if when I take n mod kernum, go ahead.
Spelling thing, it is modulo.
Okay. Well, for the assignment, for the exam, I told you can call it, if you said modulo, it's fine. But I did give you, I said there's a mod function, so you could have assumed there was, but if you wrote modulo, I didn't take off points for a more correct function, but I did tell you that there was this fake function, I guess, called mod that will make it work. All right, so if n mod kernum is equal to 0, that means it does evenly divide it. If it evenly divides it, I'm going to cons kernum, I'll kick this down a line, onto list of divisors helper, kick that down the line. Passing it minus, I'm sorry, plus current on 1 and my same n. So if I found something that even divides it, I'll cons it onto the front and continue on. Else, it doesn't evenly divide it. So what will I do? I'll call list of divisors helper, passing it the same dealio thing here. I'm just kind of skipping this value, moving it to the next one and testing it again. So that if I call list of divisors, on 9, you get your 1 and your 3 and your 9. Make sense? And you could have done it more fancy. You could have done a let rec or something like that in there where you embedded your helper inside the function. Whatever makes you happy. But all we're doing here is we're using our old pattern, going through all the numbers between 1 and whatever n is, asking a question each time. You know, instead of boiling down to the empty list, we just gave it a final list. We just didn't do the modulo of the thing the last time. We know that 9 evenly divides 9. It's like a rule, right? We probably could have also done that with the 1 and not asked the question about it. But whatever, this will work okay. So any questions on this one? Okie dokie. Then, let's see, this one. Write a procedure called FizzBuzz that takes a number as a parameter and returns FizzBuzz if that number is evenly divisible by 3 and 5, Fizz if it's evenly divisible by 3, and Buzz if it's evenly divisible by 5, and the number itself otherwise. Okie dokie. So we'll define FizzBuzz, is that how I called it? Well, whatever. This is going to be a lambda. And what do I say for the number as a parameter? Oh, it's only for one number, not like a list of numbers?
Just one.
Oh. Okay, so we'll just say n. And then we're going to have a con. And we'll say and. You said it's modulo? So if dividing it by 3 equals 0, and 5 is equal to 0, if both of those things are true, we boil down to FizzBuzz like that, or some similar spelling. Otherwise, if it's only divisible by 3, what's the 3 one? Is that Fizz or is that Buzz?
That's Fizz.
Then we have our Fizz. If it is only divisible by 5, we have our Buzz. Else, we just boil down to our N. So FizzBuzz on, let's see what, 9 should give me a Fizz. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my Fizz. 15 should give me FizzBuzz.
Lower down.
Oh,
Wrong function.
nailed it. That one. There's my fizz buzz. 5 should give me buzz. And then, I don't know, 2 should give me 2. Once they soften, you can suck it through the hole. Now the Ann Arbor folks are probably like, that seemed out of context. It's the, what are these called? Cocoa Puffs. It's actually not bad. It's kind of like bubble tea. Yeah, but instead of tea and those jelly things, it's Mountain Dew and Cocoa Puffs. So really the same thing. All right. Questions on that one?
Good job, B.
Thanks, Blaine.
Okie dokie.
I feel like I should go for like a contest.
Next one. I agree, V, you're not that good. All right, write a lambda calculus expression where a variable x occurs free and a variable y occurs both free and bound. Yeah.
Are we able to see the exam like what we did wrong, right?
It should have.
Oh, wasn't it closed then?
Huh?
Was it closed then? Is it like not on Blackboard anymore?
No, it should still be there.
Alright.
Did you not take it?
No, I took it.
Well, anybody else looking at it? You can see the exam, what you wrote, right?
Let's see.
I couldn't see it.
No, I couldn't either.
Okay, somebody post that in the 470 channel, and I'll when I get home, there might be a button I need to click that just releases the whatevers. Actually, hold on. Let me. Is it the? Here. Let's see if I can. Is it the test options, maybe? Okay. There's maybe those. Yeah, I'll just click everything. We'll see what you get. All right, refresh, check now. do you get stuff?
Yeah, it's all in there.
All right, so we're good now.
Hang on, where's the midterm at?
Did you refresh your page?
Yes.
Go to content.
Is that what you're looking for, Fran?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. You guys said it's under content.
It's
No.
in grades.
Yeah, go to
Oh,
grades.
there we go. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what your thing looks like.
Thank you.
Blackboard didn't exist when I was a student. Handed him a piece of paper. We killed so many trees back then. It was awesome.
You act like we don't kill so many trees now. Like Blackboard has solved less than 1% of the problem.
That's probably true. But that has more to do with human behavior, just choosing to continue to print.
That's fair.
We used to hand floppy disks in, actual floppies. So you had to get this plastic case to like the floppy, the 5 1/4 inch. You had to get a plastic case to hand it in. That way the teacher didn't like bend it in his like briefcase. Like, sorry, my homework got bent.
Arguably, we use more paper now because have you seen the like health professors that require you to print off their 40 slide PowerPoint?
Oh no, maybe to mark it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably the next thing. Is once we have everybody with like tablets, and the tablets have like a convenient way of actually marking up things. Because I know like English professors, when they grade papers, I mean, they want to have the actual thing so they can mark on it. And that makes some sense, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Not a clean solution. Above my pay grade. What am I looking for? Is it in here? Midterm? Ah, nailed it. All right, I think I have to go to edit text, and that shows me my stuff. All right, we haven't written this one yet, have we?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to write a lambda calculus expression where a variable x occurs free and a variable y occurs both free and bound. Okay, so this one's really testing if you know what occurs means. Okay, so occurs does not mean in a binding situation. So let's look at a lambda where a y occurs bound. Okay, so we're going to say lambda y, except I need to actually type in y. In that case, the lambda, the y occurs bound. This is where y occurs. Make sense? That's where it occurs. This is not where it occurs. This is where bindings take place. And then we have a lambda. What am I supposed to do? An x occurs free. So we're going to say lambda z. And I'll put this in an app expression in a second. And we're going to have this guy take in an x and a y. And we'll put all this in an app expression. So here's an expression where an x occurs free. So it occurs there. It's not bound. Here's a y that occurs, but it occurs free because it's not bound. And over here we have a y that occurs bound. And all this is inside of an app expression. So x occurs free right here. And y occurs both free and bound. This is where it occurs free. This is where it occurs bound. Questions on that one? And you can write an infinite number of these, just coming up with, you can have lambdas inside of lambdas instead of an app expression. But this is really testing what does it mean for a symbol to occur. Y does not occur right here. This is where this is where variables get bound. Occurrences happen over here. Remember the whole thing on occurs free versus occurs bound? So this one should have been pretty easy if you understood what does it mean for something to occur. Has to be part of the body of the expression. All right, questions on that one? Okie dokie. All right. So here, I'm going to skip the conversion just so we can come back to it, but I just want to make sure we do time. I can assume you guys can do conversions. That's not really content from this class. That's more make sure you guys don't suck as computer scientists. All right, so what is a grammar? What is a production? A grammar is a formal representation of a language. Any language, not necessarily a programming language, any language. So you could have the grammar for numbers. You could have the grammar for symbols, things like that. Or you could have the grammar for lambda calculus expressions, which would be more of a programming language thing. So grammar is a formal representation of languages. You could also write as, you could say represented, or let's see, stored as a collection of productions. A production is a single rule within a grammar, which describes one of potentially many rules formally describing a language. Something in that ballpark? All right, questions on that one? Okay. Binary tree ones. given a binary tree, so given this grammar, a binary tree is an int or it's a list containing a symbol, a bin tree, and a bin tree. Write an example of a bin tree that contains 5 numbers. This one I think was pretty commonly missed. All right, so it's an int or it has to be a list starting with a symbol containing 2 binary trees. Okay, and we're trying to hit what, exactly 5 numbers. So we're gonna do an A, and then what I'll go ahead. So what I saw a lot in here was these empty lists. An empty list is not part of this grammar. This grammar, if you have a list, this grammar requires 3 things to be in it: a symbol, another binary tree, and another binary tree. This doesn't support empty lists. Make sense? That was really common. I saw a lot of empty lists in these solutions. So we're going to have an A. Then I'm going to have a B. I'm going to have a C. I'm just giving myself kind of a structure here. All right. And so I need, and then I'm going to throw in here D. I think that should give me enough. So we'll have a B, 1, 2. We'll have a D, 3, 4. And then that 5 will be part of the C. So this is a binary tree. A binary tree is a symbol. Technically, these should probably be little single quotes here, but not a deal breaker for the exam. So it should be a symbol followed by a tree and another tree. So first tree here is a symbol followed by a tree, which is just an int, and another tree, which is just an int. So those are my 2 numbers. And on the right side, we have a symbol followed by, here's my first tree, which is a symbol followed by an int and an int. My next 2 numbers, I'm at 4. And then the second binary tree is just an int, 5. There's my 5th number. All right, questions on that one?
There should be parentheses wrapped around the entire thing, right?
No. A binary tree is a list containing a symbol and 2 binary trees.
You are missing a parenthesis.
Well, it's possible I'm missing a parenthesis, but this is the correct starting thing. Here's an open close. Here's an open close. Oh, yeah, I'm just missing the end one.
Okay.
There we go.
I thought you were missing.
I got another Cocoa Puff.
My God.
Down to 4.
More food in there, just for fun.
This is the game you play with bubble tea, right? It's a big straw. You got to get every single last one of them. Those are my 2 favorite games: the bubble tea game and then the chocolate milk bubble game. You put a straw in chocolate milk and you just blow it into it, and then most kids stop. I never did. My parents had to start swinging at me. And that brings us to today. All right. Next one. Oh. Same definition, write a procedure called sum tree that takes a binary tree as a parameter and returns the sum of all the numbers in the tree. Okie dokie. All right, so this guy takes in a B tree, whatever, and we're going to have a cond. We're going to say number B tree. Just boil down to the B tree. Boil down to that number. Else, if it's not a number, it must be our other kind of B tree. So what are we going to do? We're going to return the sum of sum tree on the catter of B tree of B tree. Sorry. I'm missing an extra sum tree.
Some tree.
There you go. If it's a number, boil onto the number. Otherwise, return the sum of all that garbage. So the sum tree of the first binary tree. So we just blow past the symbol. And the sum tree of the second binary tree. Blow past the symbol and the first binary tree. All right, this guy should work on binary trees like this guy. Ooh, I wonder, will this work in here? Oh.
What is?
I think that's one of the symbols from the Stargate. Yeah, you know what that guy.
Did you start printing out Stargate yet?
Well, I have a small one, not the big one, but we have most of our printers in place. What's that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15?
We'll see if this works. I don't know if you'd be happy with. Yeah, I think it just wants. I think you see a single quote in front of the full.
Single quote in front of who?
Instead of all the little single quotes.
Oh, like this guy.
Yeah.
All right, because none of those are variables. Man, 2 big gulps, no Cocoa Puffs. All right. So, question on that one? All right. Ooh. So I'll just say it out loud real quick. Purpose of storing lambda expressions in our variable environment. Lambdas are procedures. Variables are name value pairs. Might be nice for us to store a procedure later on so we can call it by its name. Right? You know, we can have an apply expression with maybe something called factorial as the first parameter instead of, you know, some crazy looking lambda thing. Write a procedure, apply greatest GD that takes positive numbers as a parameter, list of positive numbers and returns a new list of the same length with every number replaced by the largest integer value that evenly divides it. Okay, just have a helper. You can even do a map for that one. Map that across the values to replace each one by the greatest value that replaces it, but it's going to be pretty similar to that first modulo one with our helper that kind of finds the greatest value. You can actually, we did talk about this one. Some people would just return the thing itself because the thing boils down to itself, right? My intention was the value that evenly divides it that comes right before that one, but I didn't take off points otherwise. But yeah, so technically you could have just returned the list. Was not my intent, but I didn't take off points. Questions, comments, concerns, bribes. All right, and we're coming back on Wednesday. What are we doing? Putting lambdas into our environment? Is that what we said?
Sure.
I think that I had said read about that for like the previous class, something along those lines.
I don't know if you
A lot has happened since last class.
I remember you said read something.
What would you like us to reread? So we're all fresh on
Yeah, let me put into. I'll look up the exact section of the book right now, and I'll put up what parts I want you to read, so we all come back on Wednesday ready. Sound good? So I think that what we're going to do is put lambdas into our environment next. That kind of makes some sense. That way we have better app expressions, something like that, rather than just these coded lambdas all over the place. All right, I will see everybody on Wednesday.